This is for the new people. We have a lot of new listeners to this show. A lot of people are sharing Inside Reproductive Health around the fertility field. And so that's a huge thank you to the old people that have been listening for a couple of years or at least some months. For the new folks, if you've been listening, maybe in the past couple episodes, you've been binging recently, it helps so much if you leave a review in the Apple podcast store or in whichever podcast platform that you listen. Will you do that? Will you take 10 seconds right now to write a review for Inside Reproductive Health in your podcast platform? Because that really helps the show. And it really helps us bring you more free content like what we have today, which is a profile of a newer company in the fertility space called Rescripted. I have the co-founders, Kristyn Hodgdon and Abby Mercado, on the show. A lot of people might be listening. Hey, what the heck? You said you don't have startups on the show most of the time. You said you don't have industry side companies on the show most of the time. Yeah, most of the time it's true. Sometimes I do. I don't know. Keep asking me. Show up to conferences that I'm at. And eventually I'll also figure out this sponsorship platform for the show that we can get more sponsors in that doesn't have to be an endorsement from me, because there's very few companies, i.e. Engaged MD. It's like Engaged MD and maybe one or two other companies that I feel comfortable giving the full Griffin Jones endorsement to. And so we will expand that platform. But in the meantime, we talk about their company, Rescripted. And I think it's good for docs to listen to as well, because many of you want to start your own businesses or like side ventures or get involved with something scalable in VC that's not the clinical duties that you have right now. It's useful, the unpacking that we do of how companies have to reiterate and pivot and when to get funding and how you get revenue and how far deep do you go and why some companies can pull this model off and not others. It's going to be for the marketplace to decide if Rescripted and others actually pull it off. I don't know if they will. I hope they do, but it's not me that decides. It's not you either. It is the marketplace. And it is their ability to respond to it. So I think all of those insights are going to be really good for people that are thinking they might want to get involved in some entrepreneurial venture. And I hope you enjoy this show with Abby Mercado and Kristyn Hodgdon from Rescripted. Ms. Hodgdon, Ms. Mercado, Kristyn, Abby, welcome to Inside Reproductive Health.
Thanks for having us, Griffin. Happy to
Thanks so much, Griffin. Happy to be here.
Let's start with a tangent that I know the audience is going to be super thrilled to go on. Do either of you know who Josh Allen is?
Ooh.
Okay, so well, this is a problem nationwide because Josh Allen needs to be telling people how to bundle their home and auto insurance and getting huge deals from Pepsi. Josh Allen is the quarterback of the Buffalo Bills that deserves every bit as much fame as Patrick Mahomes, and certainly more than that dude Baker Mayfield that got a whole progressive campaign for 5 years for doing nothing. But Josh Allen, turns out, is an incredible quarterback based on his performance in 2020, 2021. I'm from Buffalo, which is a place where you are just supposed to believe. You're supposed to believe in whoever the guy is. And I didn't. And so not that I doubted Josh Allen, not that I said he couldn't or he wouldn't, but he's not the Lord Jesus Christ. I don't have to just have faith in him because I wanted to see extreme performance consistently before I said, yep, I think this is the guy. And I have seen that from Josh Allen. I believe in him. The true believers will say that I was a doubter and all of that in the past, but it says, no, I just need to see it. I'm agnostic to it. And so as neither Josh Allen is the Lord Jesus Christ, neither are either of you a sponsor of this show. And so I don't have to think that Rescripted is the best thing in the world yet. And so I want to talk to you all about this because I have offended people in the past more than once that have attempted a similar model. And I'm just like, each time I'm like, what's different that's going to make it work this time? And I'm not asking that to be like, I don't think you're ever going to make this work. I'm just saying I get a few emails a year from people attempting similar models that they haven't made it work yet. And so let's start off with, so I just want to let you know, we're going the Josh Allen route today.
All right.
We knew you would challenge us.
So let's just start off with, what is the model for your business, Rescripted? Explain that to the audience, please.
Awesome. We can absolutely do that. And thanks again for having us, Griffin. We're super excited to tell you more about our business. So Rescripted is the #1 global media platform for fertility, infertility, and pregnancy loss. We reach 3 million people on a monthly basis. We are also a technology company, and we provide 3 different applications, 3 different apps, if you will. A social network first, secondly, a direct-to-consumer product marketplace, and third, a direct-to-consumer digital pharmacy. So that is what Rescripted is. Our business model, we make money in a few different ways, but far and away media is our biggest revenue driver. So that is us.
So did you say 3 million viewers, users, followers? I'm sorry, what was the 3 million?
We reach 3 million people every month. 3 million people, yeah.
And so that's through total channels, your social media, your app, your website users, et cetera. So that's
exactly.
And then the social network that you have, how many people does that entail?
So we've got about 9,000 people in our social network. And this is outside of traditional social media networks. And and Kristyn can speak a lot more to this because she was the brains behind this. But we realized that people interested in fertility topics, so a lot of infertility patients and people who were receiving fertility treatments, they weren't interested in engaging on traditional social media networks about such topics that are so private. So Kristyn noticed that and then built something outside of those channels, and that is today Rescripted.
So making sure I'm following, social networks got about 9,000 people. Are there other parts of the app, or is the social network the app? Tell me about that.
So it's a web app, to clarify. So it's not a native app. It's an app on the web. So you don't have to download anything. And by the way, we encourage everyone listening to become a member of our social network. We do not discriminate. We love everyone. Please join, even if you're a physician. So the way that the app looks, so we call ourselves a mullet. So media in the front, technology in the back. So a lot of people find us by reading our content. And so once they get into our app, they can do one of 4 things. They can read a bunch of content, they can join our social network, they can go shopping, they can buy products, or they can order medications from us. And those meds are fulfilled by our pharmacy partners.
So do they still call that a WAP? Like 12 years ago, they used to call web-based.
I don't think so.
That's a dead word now. Okay. RIP WAP. So it's so then those, you said that part, so it's not a native app yet. Well, why not?
So we actually did start the business as a native app. So, a technology first company. We spent a lot of time thinking about technology, building our technology. We have an entire tech team. We can move faster by operating on the web versus in the smartphone universe. And it's just the way that we've opted to do things. We can just be more nimble, and we can listen to patients better and respond to what they need.
So, okay. So when you say that I have to remember if I'm summing up what you said correctly, that you said that the social network is the most developed side of the business. I'm sorry. Repeat what is most.
So our revenue drivers are primarily on the media side. Our social network is an app that we use to attract more members, and to it's a warm, loving, compassionate place where you're seeing mostly infertility patients engage with one another on topics that they're facing. So, that's kind of one piece of it. People come to our site for our content. And we do content primarily. We have a whole editorial team, but we do content in partnership mostly with brands. So we work with traditional fertility brands. So brands you've heard of, like Organon, LabCorp. We also partner with various clinics, RMA, CCRM, Inception, to put that content in front of folks. We also partner with a lot of startups in the fertility space, Legacy, Ava, Family, the list goes on. So as a media company, we are putting brands in front of the consumer and using that content to educate the consumer in an evidence-based, science-backed way.
We really saw a need through our own infertility journeys, Abby and I, to meet patients where they are, because, patients are going to Dr. Google regardless on their IVF journeys. And, instead of finding Healthline or, very well health articles that are very dry and often not tailored to the experience of an actual fertility patient, our content is written mostly by those who have actually been through it, or with the help of clinics or other brand partners led by women who have also been through it. So very personalized and very sensitive to the audience. And, what can you actually expect when you go through IVF? What if you make a medication mistake? We know people are Googling those things and not finding the information they actually want to read. And so that's how we draw people in to our community. And then on our actual web app, they can, engage with others who are going through similar experiences.
Can you talk a little bit about, so if the revenue driver is the media side, is it accurate to characterize it partly as an influencer program?
We don't like to call ourselves influencers. We do have a substantial Instagram following. We have almost 95,000 followers on Instagram. So we are the single largest account for patients, but we think we do more than just that because we're actually creating written content, which is what this demographic seems to be drawn to. So, mostly millennial women. We serve 97% women between the ages of 25 and 44. They like to read content. And so that's what we serve them with.
So if there's 95,000 from the Instagram following, 9,000 from the proprietary social network, where is the rest of the 2.9 million coming from?
So there's a difference between who is actually following us versus who we are reaching. So we do a ton of work on SEO. So a lot of people are finding us organically through our content. We also have ads, typical marketing tactics to bring people to our site. But it's actually 110,000 total people in our community. That is different from, the 3
versus impressions.
Yeah.
So the media is the biggest revenue driver. Is it programmatic? Is it all sponsor driven? How does that work?
It's all sponsor driven.
Oh, are you creating the content for the sponsors too, or it's display? What's the program for them?
So something we really pride ourselves in at Rescripted is that we're not going to post on Instagram like a banner ad for your clinic or your brand. That's just not what we're going to do. Everything we do is educational for patients. And so when you see us working with reproductive endocrinologists and clinics, it's, 4 things to know if you're doing IVF under 30, or 5 things to know about why your IVF cycle might get canceled. The topics are endless, but my point is that, we're never just saying sponsored by RMA. It's always for the patient. All of our content is free. Our community is free. We don't believe in charging patients for support on an already difficult journey. We want to help clinics, gain more awareness, but also provide patients with the information they're looking for and need.
Are you able to share some of your sponsors?
I shared a bunch of them, but so let's see, I'll kind of reiterate them. So we do a lot of work with Organon. We do a lot of work with LabCorp. We do a lot of work with RMA, CCRM, Inception, specifically NYU.
Pinnacle.
We work with a ton of startups. Legacy, Ava, Family, Expectful, the list goes on. So anyone that is in the reproductive, hormonal, and sexual health space, we're really interested in talking to. We think that they're doing a great job educating and innovating, but we want to make their voices louder. So,
yeah, we're doing a really cool partnership right now with Cicero Diagnostics about just educating patients on why they might need the Receptiva DX test. Like, could their unexplained infertility be endometriosis? Like, we're arming patients with the information they need to advocate for themselves, because when we were patients, and I'm still technically a patient, we felt like we didn't have the information that we needed to sort of ask the right questions.
Do you charge by a lead generation model?
No. So we charge, we put together essentially packages for our sponsors based on, what kinds of content that they want to put in front of patients. And, I think what is really unique about us is that we are a media platform with substantial reach, but we're also doing all of the creative. So Kristyn, our Chief Creative Officer, she has an editorial team of 7 below her. I think I forget the exact percentage, but many of our writers have been through fertility treatments themselves. So they're really speaking from the heart when they help brands educate patients. And they often share their stories as well. And then we also have a team of 4 short form video content creators that also works under Kristyn. So we're doing the creative and the media, which is something that's really special about us and very different from what you see of a typical media company.
And I've been doing this a long time. I started my original company, the Fertility Tribe, back in 2018. And I've been through many, years of IVF myself. And we're always very sensitive. I think I mentioned this earlier, but we kind of know what resonates, what doesn't, what to say, what not to say. It's a very touchy audience. And as you know, social media can be tough. But I think people have grown to trust what we have to say and know that we have their best intentions in mind, which I think is important because, anyone can just post on social media and say they're an infertility support platform, but we've really walked the walk and talked the talk.
Yeah.
On the sponsorship side, is it people that are they one-off sponsorships? I just want to sponsor this article or this particular feature, or are they ongoing?
It runs the gamut. We like longer term partnerships, of course. We're a business. We're trying to keep the lights on. But I think more importantly, we like to do longer term partnerships because our focus when we work with various brands in the fertility space is brand awareness. So we're not, we're not going to promise conversions. We hope that happens for these really great brands, but what we can offer to the brands that we work with is awareness. And, as a lot of people who are probably listening to this podcast know, because we're all consumers, you can't just do something once and buy it. You've got to see something a few times to want to buy it. So that's our promise to brands when we work with them.
How did you start approaching? At what point did you start approaching sponsors? Kristyn, you had the Fertility Tribe prior to this. So did you have sponsors even before you started making Rescripted? At what point did you start approaching people?
Yeah. So in my former life, with the Fertility Tribe, I was doing it as my side hustle at first. I actually started it as my own personal blog, before I got pregnant with my twins through IVF. And And then it grew from there very organically, and some sponsors started approaching me, and but it was actually really hard to keep up with. So when I met Abby and we merged our businesses and we, got some more manpower and capital under our belts, we were able to grow that portion of our business really significantly.
Like what year time frame is this?
Oh, I would say I quit my full-time job in late 2020 and really started ramping up the brand partnerships. COVID made me do it, and best decision I ever made.
Did you just pick up the phone and start cold calling, or
they approached you?
LinkedIn?
No, yeah, most of them approached me, and then and then it went from there, and they saw good results and they wanted to keep working with me, and so I definitely brought a decent amount of relationships, at least, to the partnership. And then Abby worked her magic, and we were able to extend a lot of those partnership agreements, and even pitch way more.
So okay, so was this the first? Was this like the first business side, the first revenue attached arm of the company was sponsorships?
So no, certainly not. So we, I love this podcast, Griffin, because it's like so much real talk. Like, we've tried a ton of things. It's no secret that it is difficult for companies like extraneous to clinics to make money in this space. It's kind of a maze. It's a puzzle, so on and so forth. So the business that I originally started before I met Kristyn was a company called Best Shot, in partnership with Kristyn and my other co-founder, Pear, our CTO. And we did B2B2C medication management. That was something that I was really passionate about. I'm a mom of IVF twins who are 3, and I made an error in administering a medication. I didn't know I was pregnant, and I unfortunately miscarried that baby in a pregnancy. So, that was kind of my ultimate founder story. And, I became very, very determined, and a former VC investor. So I became very determined to just make a difference in this industry. And so Pear and we started selling this was actually a native app. So we did build a native app, and clinics loved it. We piloted with Boston IVF and with Columbia, Dr. Foreman, and Conceptions of Colorado, and Mainline Fertility. We had a lot of really excellent pilots, but ultimately we decided to pivot because interoperability in this space is horrific. It's really difficult to integrate with EMR. And, that was something that, we thought we could get away with not doing, but the nurses that we became so close with at these clinics were like, this is, we're drowning here. Like,
what specifically was it that you were trying to do that you couldn't do because of the inoperability?
So we were trying to enable patients with better medication management. So they were able to, essentially download a native app that was associated with their clinic, where they could actually, see their regimen, their ever-changing regimen. They didn't have to, get that call from their nurse, or, get on their EMR that they can't even access from their smartphone and see how their regimen was changing. So we are trying to bust that up. And, to this day, people are still not doing this right. From a clinic perspective, we have a portion of that in our pharmacy offering today. But yeah, it was really challenging. It was really difficult. And, I think it was November of 2020, Pear and I looked at each other and we're like, man, what are we doing this for? We're doing this actually for the patients. How can we get away with doing this direct to consumer and really, change people's lives through content, tools, and resources that can help them on their journey? So luckily, I met Kristyn on Instagram, which is so wild. We realized we had everything in common. And, Kristyn was like, how do I make this a big business? And I was like, I have so many ideas for you as to, how to grow your revenue. And I was like, Kristyn, how do I resonate with the consumer? Like, I'm such a B2B SaaS nerd. It's, what I invested in. It was the business that I built. Like, how do I actually talk to these consumers? And Kristyn was like, I can help you with that. And so we decided that, we are going to merge and build something together that really addresses our pain point.
So the interoperability was on the client workflow side, or was on the EMR side? It
was on the EMR side. So, essentially, like, nurses only want to do data entry once. Like, I don't blame them, obviously. Like, we get it. Like, they're so busy.
It's one of the biggest challenges in the field. Like, people ask me, why don't you build a CRM? Because it won't, unless
it doesn't work,
unless it talks to the EMR as fluidly as QuickBooks talks to my, receipt apps or and all of those things. Like, unless it does that, like, it's a non-starter. The client, the clinics cannot take on one more software.
No,
and so
it's an enormous problem. So we met with one EMR, and we met with a lot of them, but they were like,
we'll do it. We'll do this. We'll do this ourselves, and then not do it themselves.
And you took the words right out of my mouth. And we had the backing of the CEO of like their largest company. We still couldn't pull it off.
So did you go right from that model to trying that concept and trying that model to the sponsor funded content model, or was there something else in between?
Yeah, so there was something else in between. We, Per and I were still very much interested in medications. Kristyn was as well, but we said, okay, but like, how do we get into pharmacy? Like, this is potentially an interesting space. It's kind of a shitty space, but anyway, like, how can we actually affect change here? And so we essentially brought our native app onto the web, which was, pretty straightforward from a technology standpoint. And we said, okay, let's actually like vertically integrate this. What does that mean? Like, let's talk about what that means. So, that means actually dispensing the fertility medications, right? So like, starting a pharmacy, for most people who listen to this podcast, definitely know it is not easy. So we're not interested in starting a fertility pharmacy, but we were really interested in partnering with them and helping some of these pharmacies who we think are really amazing pharmacies, like actually like talk to patients a little bit better and help patients a little bit better. So, we became a direct-to-consumer cash pay hub pharmacy network. And so today we work with Braun Pharmacare in Chicago and Rosemont Pharmacy in Philly. And we essentially help bring them patients and educate those patients. And it's been great. It's kind of a secondary revenue driver for us. But it's been really interesting. And I think we're helping a lot of people and, kind of double clicking on the fact that patient advocacy in this space really works. Like, sure, your clinic might have, some sort of relationship with a pharmacy, but like from a pricing perspective, this is still the rational economic buyer. Like, can Rescripted's pharmacies actually do better? Oftentimes we can, most times we can. So anyway, it's the secondary revenue driver, but it's been really interesting. We kind of stumbled on media. And we said, wow, these brands are really trying to get their names out there. Like, we can help them while also helping patients.
So the cash pay side, how did you phrase that?
Direct to consumer cash pay hub pharmacy network.
Direct to consumer cash.
I would only say that phrase on this podcast because if you ever said that to the consumer, they'd be like, "What the F are you talking about?"
Certainly, but our audience might be doing that right now too. So explain like how that works. Like, how you said you have Rosemont and then one in Philly.
Essentially, the way that we built this was to say, like, what is our goal? Like, our goal is to educate patients and actually help them find really inexpensive medications, regardless of what clinic they go to. Like, that shouldn't matter. Like, you could go to a smaller boutique clinic, but not have a great pharmacy deal because we know it's a volume game. Like, we knew that. And so essentially what happens is, let's say we have a patient in Arizona, like, Braun is definitely Braun has many, many licenses in many states. But like Arizona might not be their biggest market. So, we might meet a patient in Arizona who is going to a particular clinic and, they find us and they say, wow, this is like not only cheap medication, but, there's also like a huge education component. Also, I don't have to call anyone. Like, that's cool. Like, I can just essentially text with my pharmacist. Like, I don't have to pick up the phone and like wait on the line for an hour for who even knows like what person. So, essentially we're bringing patients to Braun and to Rosemont that they might not normally, be able to capture.
Is that pay per lead or is that pay per fit? Like, how does the transaction work?
It's pay per lead. You could say that.
Okay, so you're delivering leads to them, and then you're paying. They're paying you.
But it's like, sure, it's the leads. Like, that's great for them. But I think it's more so the technology. Like, that the technology is the differentiator here. So we're meeting patients where they're at. They're already familiar with Rescripted. They're already reading our content, getting our comments, like engaged in the social network. And now, like, we have our own med teach videos, we have our own push notifications as to when you need to take your medications. You never have to pick up the phone and call your pharmacy. Like, you literally just get on our platform and say, hey, like, I would like a refill, or like, hey, I'd like to schedule a video call, which, by the way, can be done on our platform with my pharmacist to, understand a little Menopur. I have a lot of questions. This is a really complex drug. So it's short the leads, but I would say it's more so the technology and the fact that we can do this from a pricing perspective, because like we're able to get great pricing because we're representing so many patients in our Rescripted network.
So are you using the platform to educate patients that if you're a cash pay patient, you can go to whatever pharmacy you want, as opposed, the nurse says, go to this pharmacy?
Yeah. Yes, that is exactly what we're trying to do. Like, you guys have the choice. Like, don't, like, you're not caught in this. Like, don't think you can't advocate for yourself. And like, if you want to use the pharmacy that your clinic is recommending, great. Like, that's totally fine. Just know that you have a choice.
So it seems, as somebody that's not totally educated in this part of the space, it seems to me like that would be a much bigger revenue opportunity than sponsorships. So like, why not go hog wild on that?
We need clinics to recommend us to their patients.
No, we don't. We actually don't. Like,
that's what I'm thinking. You don't. Like, I mean, I think that that going through clinics is for suckers like me, meaning just like people that like can't go like other way, but yeah, I think part of the reason why modern fertility is a huge success in this space is because it's like, well, we don't need to go through the clinics to like get them to do this testing. Like, we're going to bring this testing to Walmart. We're going to scale this. Like, you're reaching 3 million people, at least, to some degree. An eyeball sees something for a second and counts that 3 million people, but you're probably meaningfully reaching hundreds of thousands of people, at the very least, meaningfully reaching tens of thousands of people. It seems like you don't need the clinic. So like, why not just like what are the obstacles there? It seems this is like business bro talk when you're having a drink with somebody and they're like, you gotta do this, man. Like, so what I'm asking is, why not? Like, what are the things that would prevent that from blowing the heck up?
Yeah, I like your use of the phrase hog wild. So we're in the process of going hog wild. So I think in the next year, I think Rescripted will be like more of a name in the pharmacy space. And, we're excited we're putting together some partnerships that we're really, really pumped about. But, I think what's important to note on the media side and like on the sponsorship side. So like, we're not just talking about infertility. We're not just talking about these big brands that we all see, at AFRM, and then, all the physicians we see at AFRM. Like, that is a small piece of like what we are doing. Like, we are engaged in fertility, infertility, and pregnancy loss. So when we look at the market, so let's talk about the millennial parenting market is worth $46 billion. So it's our belief that the pre-parenting market is actually just that substantial, maybe. There are 30 million people in the United States right this minute who are trying to have a baby. It is going to be more challenging than they think for, 75% of those people, even if they don't go to a fertility clinic. So what we're noticing is that a lot of people are really struggling with just basic sex ed stuff. Inception ran a, listeners to this podcast probably remember the study a couple of years ago that Inception ran, where we uncovered that 40% of women don't understand what ovulation is. If you don't understand what ovulation is, how the heck are you going to get pregnant? So there's just a baseline lack of understanding in basic fertility concepts. So infertility is a small amount of what we'll do in the future. We think this market is enormous and we think people need it. So that's why we're so excited about media. But to your point, we're also really excited about pharmacies.
I promise I will figure out this sponsorship scheme for Inside Reproductive Health so that we can get people on advertising, sharing their content without it being an endorsement from me, because there are so few companies. There might be one or two other companies that I would give an endorsement to, but so far it has just been Engaged MD. And the reason is I'm just not qualified to be able to talk about a certain company's performance. It would have to be so disproportionately positive. And that for me has been Engaged MD. I have more than half of my clients that have used Engaged MD. Every single one of them loves it. Many of them have started after we begin working with them, and they and every other person that I've ever spoken to that is a user of Engaged MD talks about how much time and grief it saves their nurses and their staff, that they don't have to do the same things over and over again. They have a much more scalable and efficient platform for educating patients, building that rapport. So then when the nurse or the clinician talks to the patient, they're able to tailor that conversation to what the patient actually needs and not repeating the same things to someone that's a deer in headlights. I keep hearing how much time Engaged MD is saving fertility staff, keep hearing how much stress it's saving them at a time when burnout is still crazy. People are still leaving positions left and right when, in my view, they shouldn't be. We still lack a lot of technological solutions that I hope we have in the next 5-10 years. But Engaged MD is one that is here now, and more than half of the practices in North America are using Engaged MD. So I hope that you are in that group. But if you're not, if you're still now on the laggard side of the bell curve, then I hope that you go to engagedmd.com/Griffin, and they're going to give you a free workflow assessment. You're going to be able to see what other clinics, you're going to get some insights from how other clinics have things structured. And you're going to see a couple major areas that you can improve to keep your team from burning out, to keep them from stress. That's free as long as you mention my name and the podcast. And I ask that you share that with them anyway, because it's one of the things that helps give free content to you and to all of the listeners. But the real beneficiary is your team and your patients, because patients have a much better experience when they can be better educated, when they can do things on their time, and then they can have what needs to be tailor fit to them, truly personalized care. And so the real beneficiaries are staff and patients. Do it for them, not me, but it's nice to help out the podcast and get yourself a free workflow assessment by going to engagedmd.com/Griffin. And now back to the show. Why, I'm asking you to speculate, and maybe it's legal things that I don't know about. Why do you suspect that no pharmacy did this themselves? It's like, okay, if these people who are like super passionate and talented with media come from the infertility community. And one of the ways that they apply that is by generating subscriptions. Like, why didn't a pharmacy do this? I said subscription. I think I meant prescriptions.
Prescriptions. We do both. So like from our perspective, like you kind of, well, so Kristyn, I will credit this like Instagram content genius. Like you cannot do this organically today. So the fact that Kristyn was in her waiting room and was like, wow, wait, we're all like really sad about being in this clinic right now. We're all going through the same thing. Like, why aren't we sharing our stories? And because she's a professional writer, by the way, like has worked in the publishing industry, like that is her superpower. She like created this herself and amassed 90,000 Instagram followers. Like that is incredible. That is uncommon, to be clear. Like that is very, very, very challenging to do. And Kristyn did it. Like you can do it if you have a lot of money, but you know, this was, as Kristyn reflected, her side hustle. So to really hit the consumer and to really understand the consumer, you have to have a following. So, you know, it's almost like if, and this is why, you know, media companies can become so interesting because they're content, community, and commerce plays, right? And you can kind of like pick your favorite commerce play. Like you're gonna make it work if you have, you know, a substantial following and you have a decently smart team. So you gotta start with the following, and pharmacies don't have that.
All right. So you didn't say it this way, but I'm saying it this way based on the observation of what you just said. Is it was too big of a lift for them. And I feel comfortable categorizing it this way because I wanted like to get some of these companies to think about, and very often, especially at pharmacies, they kind of like will kind of like reach out to me and they're like, well, you know, we kind of want to do a little B2B marketing, but we also kind of want to reach directly to patients. And it's like, this would be a big, in order for them to do it, they would have to find a Kristyn. They would really have, it would, like, couldn't just be like a, you know, like a little influencer deal. Like they would actually have to really devote biz dev to this. But it is possible that they could have done this. And, but it's like, well, we're not consumer facing, you know, we're better off going to the nurses. We're a commodity. That it's like, well, you guys just did it and you're not even a pharmacy. And so, and like it could
also,
have been,
I think if we were just a pharmacy, people might not trust us as much as they do. Like, I think because
it would be better to keep the brand separate. For sure.
Yes.
But they could have gone to Fertility Tribe. They could have like scooped you up or there. And there's probably a couple other people. Like it's like you met Abby and that was your business partner. The pharmacies could have been business partner for someone like that if they really devoted to it. And well, I think good for you guys. I think that's you guys did something that you're like, all right, if you're not going to do this, we'll do it. And so that came before, and then media. All right, what other irons do you have in the fire right now?
Gosh. So I think like one thing we're really interested in is you know, our product marketplace is kind of, you know, a fun place for fertility consumers, and it's and here we really make a point to work with startups. So this is like, we will always be a mission-driven company. Like, you know, we are IVF patients. All we want to do is pay it forward. And so in our marketplace, we're working with startups that might not have, who are doing, you know, legitimate things like, you know, and I'll name drop our medical advisors, Dr. Eduardo Harriton, Dr. Sarah Barton, Dr. Nina Rasakova, like, you know, all of these products have been, you know, like they have approved them. So they're all like medically sound products, but we're saying, okay, these startups are doing amazing things, but they don't have the reach that we have. So we're going to let them use our reach to put their products in our marketplace and help them succeed as businesses as well. So, our product marketplace is, it's soft launched right now. We're doing a total reskin of the platform that'll be live late July, but it's something that we're really, really proud about. And so like, I would say, that's one. And Kristyn, do you maybe want to chat about kind of what we're doing with Row and, some of the content that we're putting out, just given Row?
Just to piggyback on your marketplace comments really quickly, that's the startup viewpoint, but from a consumer viewpoint, there's so much noise out there. If you're a fertility patient, you have no idea what supplements you should be taking. You have no idea what products you actually need versus don't need at all. So in addition to trying to amplify, all the amazing things these startups are doing in the space, we're also trying to like break through the noise for patients and say, okay, this is what you actually need. This is what you don't. This is the science behind it. And make your own informed decision. But we're going to help you do that. And then, go ahead.
Am I correct in understanding that it's e-com? You are selling these companies' products through your platform.
Yes, straight up. We're a dropship marketplace.
Now that's an idea that I never thought of. That I think
join the team, Griffin.
Pretty darn good. What were you going to say, Kristyn?
Oh, Abby mentioned the Roe v. Wade stuff. We really try to also be thought leaders in the space, and we don't back down from controversial topics and, being advocates for our community. And, something like this, which is going to affect potentially, so many patients in high risk states, we really felt like it was important to join the conversation and be, a voice and of, information for those who were just panicking about how this could affect them.
Yeah. And, to kind of piggyback on that too, like we've been in the news a lot. So, between Kristyn and myself, we've been on the Today Show, we've been on the Wall Street Journal, we've been in BBC News, CNN, like the list goes on and on and on. So we have that kind of reach too. So, to help this industry just like be a part of that conversation, and most importantly, to help our patients be a part of that conversation, we think that's really important, and we want to use our influence for good.
Well, I always say like no one bats an eye at all of the motherhood platforms out there, like Motherly, Scary Mommy, like the list goes on and on. But really there's only one Fertility Rescripted. And why? I mean, I think it's close to 1 in 5 couples struggle with infertility now. And we're really giving a voice to that topic where no one really has before at this level. So always focus on the patients.
So we had in the beginning was the prescription ordering through the clinic via the EMR. That's kibosh, right? We're not doing that.
Not doing that.
Then
we only work with clinics if they come to us.
Then pharmacy, then pharmacy prescription leads for cash pay payments as the hub. And we're still doing that, right? Media sponsorship, which right now is the biggest of the revenue driver. Yeah. E-com, which we're in soft launch right now. What else?
Those are our three revenue drivers, Griffin. So yeah, also like a random revenue driver, like people are starting to come to us to the Rescripted studio, we call it. So we do white label content for folks who are trying to put out more patient friendly. So
people, my audience doesn't hate this episode. They don't feel like I was a shill for your brand. They don't feel like I was attacking you. They like this episode. They're entertained and informed enough that you get invited back for July 7th, 2024. Of those 3 things, what do you suspect will be the biggest part of your business?
Still media. And, I think that like pharmacy will be a close second. The product marketplace is like, that's part of that's a media play as well. So we're not looking for that to be a huge revenue driver. We never have, but it's still media. So.
Do you see acquisition in your future?
like us being acquired, or we acquire somebody else?
You's doing some acquiring. So I don't see like a clear winner in this race in terms of like one, like there's the Wall Street Journal and then there's Forbes and then there's CNBC, but like it's like so I think acquisition could be a route out there. Like there's IVF Babel. There's a couple other really good media platforms for patients that are probably close enough in your ethos. And like, do you think that's a possibility?
We haven't given it a ton of thought just because I think we've been charging so hard.
I'm also kind of a control freak when it comes to what content we put out and the voice. And, it always has to be in our brand, like personality and, really patient driven and evidence backed. And I don't know, if we just inherited a ton of articles, I'd probably still edit the crap out of them.
I think, we have done an acquisition of a like now defunct company's content. So like we have done acquisitions here and there. I think like if we were looking to, like we've certainly made our name among the patient community in infertility and pregnancy loss. As I mentioned, like fertility is the big promise. It's helping those people who have just pulled the goalie and they're like, what do I do? Like, how do I get pregnant? Like, I have no idea what ovulation is. So like, that is the promise, and helping us gain influence in that space. Like, that's where I could see us like acquire that influence. But right now we're trying to build it.
Well, there's no shortage of that because our entire generation was like, oh yeah, I'll start thinking about kids at 35.
Yes, bad idea. Bad idea, millennials.
My hypothesis could be totally. My hypothesis is because I believe that there was a teen pregnancy bump in the 90s, like in the maybe early 90s, mid 90s. There was like, and so like I think like that there was just. I just remember sex ed being about like never get pregnant. Like it will ruin your life if you get pregnant. And then we're like, yeah, it'll ruin our lives. We won't be able to do sweet stuff. And then, so it's like, all right, when do we have to kind of start doing sweet stuff? It's like, well, I can at least do sweet stuff on 35, maybe 45. Maybe I'll have a kid then. It's like, well, that's not totally how it works. And so you've got a demographic that.
Totally. Like you can point to the data, like the average age of a first-time mom in New York and San Francisco is 33. Like, that's not good for the old egg.
But that's why that's so much of the psychological impact of infertility too, is like, you're so blindsided because you're so unaware that this could even happen to you, despite the growing statistics, despite like the internet. And, it's like, oh wait, I don't get regular periods, so I can't get pregnant. Like we're trying to disseminate like the most basic information that we were failed to have been taught when we were younger.
Yeah, that should be like the part 2 for like totally. the sex ed. It's like, all right, don't get STDs. Don't get pregnant in these situations. But then you're going to have to think about all this.
Yeah. Like we truly don't understand our reproductive systems. Like it's a shame, but we're hopefully helping people. So.
Are you all self-funded? Are you raising money right now from VC? What's that like?
Yeah. So we were intentional about not raising VC actually. So we are fully angel funded. We are a team of mostly females. We are 40% funded by females. We are 40% funded by people who have had fertility treatment. So it's something we're really proud of to operate with such a lean team. We pay anywhere between 20 and 30 people on our payroll every month.
Angel funded being friends and family?
Yeah, call them friends. No, they're friends now. No, angels who are interested in investing in this space. So, essentially we did go through Techstars. So like we do have institutional money from Techstars, but other than that, there's no institutional fund.
Are you planning to do
another raise?
Another raise?
Probably, it's hard to say. It's not something that it's not our highest priority. Our highest priority is running a profitable business. So we are seeking profitability. We are close to profitable. And that's something that we're really proud of. We want to kind of maintain ownership of what we're doing and all that good stuff. So it's certainly something we're seeking.
Do the angels have equity?
Yeah. Oh. We've raised about $2 million to date. And we were founded in 2020.
2 million? Okay, so that's not nothing.
No, yeah. Like I said, they're not like friends. They've become friends. Like, yeah, we've certainly raised some money. So
how do you get, I know you're not like doing subsequent rounds, at least not yet, but like how do you even get angel money for a sponsorship revenue model? Like it's media company 101. Like there are people who invest in media companies and we found them. Lucky us. So, yeah, it's, there's a ton of media companies out there. And, I'll point to, there's one VC called the Churn Group that invests in plays like us. And, they're household names like Food 52 and Goop and Hello Sunshine and, what's that? Hodinkee, the watch company. So, there's definitely a playbook for what we're doing. And there's an investor base for that playbook. What did you really need the money for? Like, because theoretically you could bootstrap it. In theory, and who knows how long it would take, and that has its cons too. But so what did you feel that you needed the money for?
The people, this amazing team. We've got to pay our folks. So, we definitely invest in technology. So we have an entire technology team. They're all in-house. That's something that's really important to us, to have control. And to be able to essentially serve patients up with what they want, serve patients and people. Again, they're not all infertility patients. It was a priority for us to really bolster our content team. So Kristyn has this like pretty substantial team that reports up to her that helps us with our creative, helps us resonate with patients. Our head of marketing, our head of partnerships, our head of operations. So there's a lot that kind of goes on under the hood to kind of, make this happen and enable us to help these patients with content tools and resources. So it's all human capital.
I'll give you both the last word. How would you like to conclude?
Chris?
I think it might seem like from today's podcast that we're doing a lot, and we are. This is always like what I feel like we need to defend. All right, so
let's talk a little bit about that actually before we conclude, and because that is one thing that is both true and necessary of all good entrepreneurial ventures, and it's also true and destructive from all bad entrepreneurial ventures. Like the pivoting that happens. And, we've had a school of thought for the last decade or maybe decade and a half of the lean startup and ways to prove concept. And all of those are good things. And they should be part of the procedure of testing a business. But at the end of the day, a business is not one concept. It is, it's dozens of concepts, and you're proving each one of them as you go through, the maturation of building a company. And so, you can't just say, oh yeah, I put up this landing page and 10,000 people bought this, therefore I have a company. It's like, okay, you got one idea going, and then there's a number of different things to prove after that.
I will say too, you're only as strong as your team. When Abby approached me about merging our businesses, I was naturally really nervous about it. And kind of took her through a months long convince me process. But, what I think is so powerful about our team is that we each have our strengths. And, I'm content and creative and community, Abby's business, and Pear is technology. And then we have our head of marketing and head of partnerships and operations. But we all sort of stay in our own lanes and really respect what the others do while also being collaborative. And I think that's so important to not, to just trust that we're all getting our jobs done and we're all on this team for a reason. I think, your team can really make or break your startup. And I'm really proud to be a part of this one.
Yeah. Let me ask it this way, because the REI venture capital, the fertility venture capital graveyard is filled with companies like, I don't want to embarrass anybody, so I'll make one, Glow. They
tried integration, it didn't work.
I'm ripping on them, but they raised a lot of money, and they did at least have some really good team members at some point, and they also they had a community. They had a really good community. There were people that there were clinics that were getting 5% of their patients from Glow, and then it couldn't materialize. They tried going one way, tried going the other, and but then you have Fertility Authority that becomes Progeny. It's holy crap, they really did it. And then and so it can the pivoting and the figuring out what really this is necessary. It can just go either way. And so what do you feel that you're doing to safeguard to go the right way?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it is it's all about the data, Griffin. We're a super data focused team, and we are also not afraid to kill things that we're working on. So if the data is suggesting that something isn't working, we kill it. We've killed so many different products to date. Right now, all three of the ways that we make money, it's working. So we're maybe on July 7th, 2024, we will only be doing one of those three things. But, as of today, the data suggests that it's all working. But when it isn't, or if it isn't, who knows? We're not afraid to kill it and focus on what is working. So for our team, we are lean, and we're always looking at the data, what's working, what's not. And you have to have that focus.
Now I'll give you the final, now that I scratched that, you reminded me that I wanted to talk about that, Kristyn. So now
no worries. Okay. So I lost my train of thought now, but, I would say for those that are listening that might be skeptical of, a patient community or a media platform in the industry, we were at ASRM a couple months ago, and we really kind of saw that we were the only booth there sort of representing patients. And as patients ourselves,
Resolve just heard you say that, and they're like, what the...
They didn't have a booth. We did.
When did Resolve not have a booth at ASRM?
I don't think they had a booth. No, they might have.
I'm pretty sure they've had a booth at every ASRM that's ever existed.
I guess I should rephrase that.
They had a booth in 2020 when there was no ASRM. They went anyway.
Okay, fine. Sorry, Barb, if you're listening. We love Resolve.
No, I mostly meant it. I guess I don't consider them a media platform. I was talking more about we are patients and we are patient advocates, and everything we do is for patients on our media platform. But we also bring in the clinics and the doctors and the brands that, are doing the work. And we're working both sides to try to just arm patients with as much information and empower them to be their own best advocates on their journeys, because that's what we wished we had on our journeys.
And also, if you're skeptical, we'd love to work with you. So hit us up, Abby at Rescripted.com. That's the best way to kill the skeptics and just say, we'd love to show you what we're made of and to show you how we can better educate patients.
Well, that's the best way to kill the skeptics is time and doing it. And LeBron James wasn't LeBron James until he was. And so I don't know if Rescripted is Josh Allen or if it's Baker Mayfield. I hope that you're Josh Allen because I like you. I like talking to you. The market decides and you'll decide. So
we're based in Colorado. So we're like, you can call us the Peyton Manning as well.
I wish you the best of luck. Abby and Kristyn, thank you for coming on Inside Reproductive Health.
Thanks,
So
Griffin.
much, Griffin.
You've been listening to the Inside Reproductive Health podcast with Griffin Jones. If you're ready to take action to make sure that your practice thrives beyond the revolutionary changes that are happening in our field and in society, visit fertilitybridge.com to begin the first piece of the fertility marketing system, the goal and competitive diagnostic. Thank you for listening to Inside Reproductive Health.